That's funny.
So one thing I know people are struggling with right now is it doesn't sound like you guys are having any trouble with, but some people are having trouble being creative right now because it's hard to think about. It's hard to ignore what's going on outside. So what are some tips that you can give to people to help them, sit down and write something or whatever they're trying to do?
You want to go first?
I think it's different from us because like with our writing styles, we don't really have a real boundary. Like we can literally just go into outer space. So
yeah, okay, right, for context, again, as I mentioned earlier, I alluded to, animation fits at least half of our scripts. I would say at least half.
Yeah.
Would be animation. People fly and there's craziness and
right.
People transform into people transform and then and animate objects talk. So for us, we can just be like whatever. That said, for skits where we have to do stuff, we're actually going to act out ourselves. We do have to bring it back a little bit. So, for example, writing that would be, I don't know, it's still pretty, I don't use the word easy, but in terms of like to get in the mode of being creative. So, writing is still going to be what it is, but just to, for lack of a better word, summon your muse to like, oh man, all right, I'm in the zone. Like I just I pitched an idea to you guys via text yesterday. Did you see it?
I gotta look.
Okay. So I pitched an idea. Like I just had an idea yesterday. It just came to me. I was like, oh man, this would be funny. So, I threw it out there via text and I would the caveat though.
I remember.
Okay. So the caveat though is while I would say just summoning your muse and doing it, that's completely dependent on your financial situation. So, full disclosure, I'm a white collar worker. I work from home, and I'm doing all this writing outside of those, business hours, whatever. So at night and in weekends, because I'm not burdened by stress and worry. I'm like, am I gonna lose my job? Lose my, Again, there's a bit of uncertainty right now, so I'm not gonna act like, whatever, and my salary got reduced, blah, blah, blah. But getting a salary reduction versus losing a job is completely different. So, I consider myself lucky because I bought cheesecake today. A lot of people can't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would add this, though, for our process, like me and Chaz created like a completely different world outside of, I guess, the original. I think we had an original idea.
Like we wrote a new season of a new show, new idea.
And then on top of that, we introduced like, I guess like new writers, or at least we tried to build somewhat of a smaller style of a writing team, just so we can kind of keep the energy going. I think a lot of times with the writing aspect, it can be tough when you're doing things solo because it's really easy to push the deadline back. But when you do like a group project, like kind of like what we did has been fairly successful, especially with the table reads. We had a deadline. So that means we had to write something up.
And that was, I'm telling you, that's part of it. Having that deadline is like, whether this is good or bad, I got to finish it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what your experience is with like writing partners, but I know for us, we dabbled with a small writing team, and it's had its pros and cons that we're still trying to figure out. But that is one thing that worked for us.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I've written with several different people, and you just have to find a rhythm, I guess. There's certain people, like when I write with Molly, she's good with like big picture stuff, like these crazy big ideas, and I help her rope them in and like organize everything. But I have other partners who are actually way better than me at like outlining and like having like these really elaborate just everything, like note systems and everything. And I'm like, what are you doing? So they're even more organized than I am. So I have to adapt to that and become the big picture guy and be like, we'll do this and this. And they're like, so it's just finding that rhythm, I think.
But do people know what they're good at? So is it or is it kind of like reset? Because on the front end, I think it's easier to be like, hey, I write like this, I do this. How are we going to gel? Versus, the onus is on you to adjust on the fly. Sometimes that's easy, sometimes that's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it comes with experience too. If you just know, I know what my strengths and weaknesses are for the most part, and so it just comes with experience and practice. I think the more you sit down and do it, the more you know. Like, well, I'm not great at dialogue, but my action pieces are amazing. So
Yeah.
it's strength in that kind of thing. Or like in my case, I feel like I'm really good at dialogue, but I tend to rely on it a little bit too much. So I know that. So I need to cut everything down and work on action pieces or whatever, that kind of thing.
Nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
see, I think that's very practical. Like having a conversation on the front end, say, hey, I think like anything, communication is key. Having a conversation, say, hey, here's how I write, here's my cadence.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Can here's what I like to do. I might have a blind eye to this because me personally, like in terms of like the technical piece, I just like to, I like to write, and then I'll have to go back and do okay, let me make sure I set up the scene and set up all the technical stuff that a director would need to have. But in terms of just the initial getting the idea out, it's going to look like a script, but it's going to be missing stuff just because for me, that's not important on the first run in terms of telling the story or getting the jokes out or whatever, So it's stuff like that. But because I know that, I can say, hey, we got to make sure we stay disciplined because I'm not disciplined when it comes to this part of it. But I am disciplined when it comes to, I'm not disciplined when it comes to X, but I am for Y. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.